Greetings and salutations YouTube, I am BacklogBaldie, and today we're going to take a look at 8 PS5 games that you probably haven't played. We really are living in a golden age of video games. AAA games are mind-blowingly good, especially this year alone with the likes of Resi 4 and that Magic game we're not allowed to say that we like. Gaming is an expensive hobby though, and our free time is precious, so a lot of games do get skipped over if we aren't sure we're going to get our money's worth. Well, fear not my intrepid viewers, for today I'm going to lift the veil on 8 amazing PS5 games that you likely haven't played, and I'll note on screen for you when they can be accessed as part of PS Plus. If you enjoy this kind of content, please let me know by liking and subscribing. It really does help out the channel with that almighty algorithm. If you have a favourite PS5 game that nobody else has played, I'd love to know what it is, so please let me know down in the comments. Keep giving me those new games to add to the backlog. Number 1. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. You'd be forgiven for not really remembering who Zack Fair is in the Final Fantasy VII universe. He's mentioned in passing during a pretty pivotal moment in the original game, but unless you found the secret post-game cutscene explaining what happened to him or owned a PSP in 2008, chances are he slipped your mind. Crisis Core tells the story of Zack as he rises through Soldier in the 7 years before Final Fantasy VII takes place. Zack's story really helps to flesh out quite a few beloved characters such as Cloud and Aerith, but the one that struck me the most was Sephiroth. I found it truly fascinating to see Sephiroth as a war hero and bona fide good guy, and how his journey into madness wasn't just a result of reading some books one day, but rather a gradual result of conspiracies and being unable to help his friends. Bringing Crisis Core to a modern audience was long overdue, as it was far too good to remain a PSP exclusive. The third-person combat and materia fusion systems have always been spectacular, and the remaster has only made them better, making them feel more visceral and satisfying. Add to this some lovely quality of life improvements, as well as refining the controls and interface to be more in line with the FF7 remake, and you have the definitive version of Zack's adventure right here. If you're planning on picking up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'd consider this game to be an essential play beforehand, and even if you're not, get it anyway, because it's an excellent story and bloody good fun. Number 2. Hades. Despite being hailed as one of the greatest games of all time, Hades just never seems to make the cut for a lot of people. It's a simple premise. You're Hades' son Zagreus, and you want to escape from the underworld, because teenagers I guess. You will fail, a lot, and you start back at the beginning each time. Actually, now I say it out loud, it seems kind of obvious why nobody wants to try.
You don't win. You just do a little better each time.
However, each time you restart, you can upgrade, unlock new weapons, and chat with mythical figures like Achilles and the big man himself. Oh, and don't forget to pet Cerberus, he's a very good boy after all. Aww. As you fight through the underworld, you receive frequent RNG bonus powers from various different gods, and these can dramatically alter how you approach your escape and turn things in your favour. Every time you try and escape, your route is randomly generated, so you never know what you're going to get. You'll sometimes meet NPCs along the way, among which is Charon, and he's always happy to sell you some life-saving goodies. Or he seems to be anyway, he mostly just growls. Hades is an extremely addictive gameplay loop. At the time of writing this script, I had never managed to make it out of Elysium, yet when I recorded this footage, I did, and I went toe-to-toe with Hades for the first time. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well, but it just goes to show it can be done, and maybe in another run or two I'll beat him. At the very minimum, I never fail to at least get to Elysium now, whereas once upon a time I thought I would never manage to get past Megara. Hades is 100% worth your time, and frankly, it's worth it just for the writing, as the sarcasm positively drips from every line.
I swear you're right, that one is such an idiot.
Number 3. Ghostwire Tokyo. So full disclosure, one of my dream travel destinations is Shibuya, owing to my Persona 5 obsession, and I bought Ghostwire Tokyo purely because I saw the Shibuya crossing in the advertising, having little to no idea what the game actually was. What followed was a genuinely disturbing ghost story, steeped in Japanese mythology, and more than a few anime-esque tropes. I know talking cats is a pretty cool notion and all, but the disdain my cat generally wears on her face kinda makes me glad that I don't know what she's saying. Ghostwire Tokyo combines an everyday person with a spirit who just took over his very fresh corpse, and they reach a begrudging agreement to help each other out, as neither one wants to relinquish full control. The result is a very sassy voice in your head and you getting superpowers, which is quite useful really, because this all happened moments before Shibuya turned into a ghost town, and by that I mean it is chock full of scary murdery ghosts. Fortunately, your sassy hitchhiker friend has given you the means to finger blast the ghosties, and it's very satisfying when you get to cat's cradle their hearts out. Within a few hours you'll be zipping around Shibuya with your spectral grappling hook, brushing up on your post-mortem archery skills, rescuing souls via phone booths, shopping with cats, and fighting your way through haunted buildings that shift and twist all around you, and that really all is in the first few hours. If you fancy a decent horror adventure game, or you've just got an interest in Japanese horror culture, you will love this one. Number 4. Deliver Us the Moon. Deliver Us the Moon low-key blew me away in a very good way. In a future where all of mankind's energy requirements are beamed back from the moon, and one day it just stops coming, you play as an astronaut who goes up there to try and figure out what happened and to turn the lights back on. Obviously the future human race argued and politicked over the whole thing until it was too late though, so it's just you, going sort of rogue on a desperate last attempt to save us. The atmosphere, due to the complete lack of it in space, is absolutely palpable. The sound design is spectacular, and I highly recommend playing this game with a headset. When you transition to outside areas and the oxygen leaves the room, you can feel the silence of the vacuum pressing in on you, and the hauntingly beautiful yet understated soundtrack complements this perfectly. There's a genuine sense of wonder and discovery as you gradually progress through and restore power to a derelict set of facilities scattered above and across the surface of the moon, whilst you solve the mystery of what happened there piece by piece. The puzzles are pretty reasonable overall, and mechanics like watching your oxygen levels and knowing which way is actually up are nowhere near as annoying as they first seem like they might be, and once you pick up your super adorable little robot friend, a whole new set of mechanics opens up to you as well. I played most of this game in one sitting, and right through to the end I was hooked. The sequel Deliver Us Mars is out now, and I'm very excited for it to hit the bargain bin. Number 5. Kena Bridge of Spirits. If you saw my review of Kena Bridge of Spirits, you'll know that the most apt description for it is when Pixar met Dark Souls. Hang on, don't go just yet. Kena is thankfully nowhere near as punishing as its Souls brethren, as you can lower the difficulty quite a lot. What Kena is, however, is ridiculously charming, from the character models to the super adorable little dudes who follow you around and help you with puzzles and fights. Kena is a third-person action-adventure game at its core, where you journey to remove some pretty nasty stuff from your world. Between unlocking new areas as you clear the darkness and Kena unlocking new moves, this game is a Metroidvania delight. The controls are tight and responsive, and the combat in particular is tremendously satisfying. The free anniversary update added some really cool trials to do as well, where you can test your combat and your archery and your parkour, with unlockable goodies as rewards of course. And in revisiting Kena to record this footage, I ended up spending most of my time in the trials actually, just purely for how much fun they are, and the unlockable outfits are pretty cool too. If you've ever wondered what a super cute combo of Tomb Raider meets a massively toned down Souls game looks like, then Kena Bridge of Spirits has got you covered. Number 6. Soul Hackers 2. I absolutely adored Soul Hackers 2, and I will die on this hill if I have to. Through 2 full playthroughs and the Platinum Trophy, my only regret is that I did not pre-order it and get the Phantom Thieves outfits, because it doesn't seem like you'll ever be able to get those now. Make no mistake, Soul Hackers 2 is Persona 5 light, but that's okay. It's a little bit repetitive at times, but the gameplay loop is super solid fun, and I challenge anyone to find me a JRPG that doesn't become a bit circular at times. As one would expect from a game from Atlas, the characters and the world of Soul Hackers 2 are well written and super charming, and the soundtrack is an absolute masterpiece. If you know Persona, or just JRPGs in general, then the combat will be second nature to you. Find your enemy's weaknesses, kit your party out with the right combo of demon powers, chain critical attacks, and enjoy a brutal sabbath to top it all off. If you enjoy anime or RPGs or just games with great characters, I highly recommend you try out Soul Hackers 2. Number 7. Tactics Ogre Reborn. If you're unfamiliar, the tactical RPG genre is basically Final Fantasy meets chess, and for many of us, Final Fantasy Tactics was our introduction to this beautiful blend of gameplay stylings. And if that Nvidia leak is to be believed, then we might finally be getting a remake of Final Fantasy Tactics sometime soon. But before Final Fantasy Tactics was a thing, Tactics Ogre was a thing, and after spending over 100 hours with Tactics Ogre Reborn, I am forced to concede that it is in fact the greatest tactical RPG of all time. As much as I love Final Fantasy Tactics, this one takes the cake. Your battles take place on a set grid, and you have a roster of characters to choose from, all of whom can have different jobs and equipment and skills to round out your party. Each character gets a turn to move and to act, and it's up to you to lead your team to victory. It looks complicated at first, but it's easy enough to pick up, and I say this as someone who cannot seem to get the hang of actual real-life chess. In addition to the stellar gameplay of the original, you now have fantastic quality of life improvements, such as a speed modifier, the Chariot Tarot, which allows you to rewind your battle a set number of moves if things go wrong, the ability to level up your characters risk-free in training battles, which complements nicely with checkpointed level caps, and also the World Tarot, which upon beating the game allows you to keep everything you have earned whilst going back in the story to key anchor points, and then getting to play through a different timeline having made a different pivotal decision. So if you're like me, you'll end up with one master save file where you're trying to unlock everything, going through every timeline and unlocking every character, and even after getting the platinum, believe me when I say there is still tons to do. And number 8, Marvel's Midnight Suns. I cannot stress this enough, Marvel's Midnight Suns is not a card game. It's somewhere between a tactical battle game and a social simulator RPG. The cards just happen to be how you pick your actions in battle. That's it. and once you lay waste to the entire enemy force with Iron Man's shoulder rockets, blast through multiple enemies with Captain Marvel's magic space fist, or chain slash those mofos with blades, well, blade, you'll very quickly make your peace with the fact that cards are there. The cards are simple enough to get your head around. Different cards have different amounts of heroism attached to them, requiring a certain number to use them, or they'll give you a certain amount back, and you have a set number of cards and moves each turn. That's the basics, but then you also have some cards that will refund a card turn if you knock your enemy out using that card, and if you move your character into an enemy, you'll have the option to knock them back into other enemies or the environment without losing a card play. So there are many ways that you can set them up and knock them down, and that's before you even get to the epic tag teamings. Outside of battles, you have a standard fare end of the world storyline, but also a really good interpersonal story between the Avengers and the Midnight Suns, and you can train and hang out with the other characters to level up and improve your social bonds. Add to this a pretty sizable open world style hub area for you to explore, with tons of secrets to find, and you've got one hell of a package to go at here. Say it with me, kids, it's not a card game. It's the Marvel game we've been waiting for. Just saying. And there we go, YouTube. Those are 8 great PS5 games that I think you should give a try. I hope there was something in there that catered to your tastes, and I hope you've enjoyed my video. If nobody has told you this today, please know that you're doing just fine, and it does get better. Thank you very much for watching. Baldy out.